So, nah. A few days ago, I did something I should have done years ago, which was cosplay. And the character I went cosplaying as you can see, was Yu Narukami from Persona 4. I went cosplaying at a convention that I didn't even know existed until earlier this year called Overload. It's a manga and graphic novel convention where new and aspiring artists can show off and sell their art. But there are also booths selling stuff like comic books, manga, anime, whatever, even figurines. And I had an absolutely wonderful time there. I was just completely absorbed in this weird geek culture, and it was awesome. I'm serious. Words cannot describe how much of a great time I had there. Not gonna stop me from trying anyway. So, first off, let me show you what I got there. First of all, posters! Here we have a Persona 4 poster. This is actually the first thing I got at Overload. There's the character I was playing as, Yu Narukami, looking his usual cool self. Surrounded by the other characters, who also look pretty cool. And here we have a poster of Space Dandy! So it feels like you have to sing that title, Space Dandy. Man, I need to get back onto that show. And this here is a poster of Fire Emblem Awakening, which is actually my favorite 3DS game. Here's a comic book I got called Faction. It's a collection of short stories by New Zealand artists and writers. All of them are really weird, really funny, and honestly, this comic is really worth it. If you can find it, buy it. Seriously. And here we have a book called Cosplay New Zealand. It's filled with photos of people doing what else? Cosplay. These are pretty cool, honestly. But the big one I got was this figurine of Mikasa from Attack on Titan. Mikasa is actually my favorite character from the show, and she looks badass standing next to Izanagi over there. Next, I got some stories to tell you. There were actually people who recognized me in my costume. There was actually this bit where I was taking photos of those long tables with all the artists selling their art, and then somebody actually shouted, "Persona!" So I posed for the cameras, and before I knew it, I had like 4 girls dressed as anime girls taking photos of me while I was posing. This really pleased me since Persona 4, at least in New Zealand, is actually fairly obscure. Like, there are people who know about it, but it's not as well known as stuff like Attack on Titan or Dragon Ball Z or some new anime called Psycho-Pass. Mental note, I need to give that anime a view. And while that was happening, I was also going around snapping photos of other cosplayers. Of course, I asked them to pose first. One of which was a guy who was dressed as a Sith Lord from Star Wars Episode 7. That is how mad the world of cosplay is. People doing early cosplay. I also went up into a stage where I watched the guest artist Yoshitoshi Abe draw an anime girl live. It was actually a very interesting process. You have to try and visualize the character you're drawing as you draw them. You start off with a very gentle outline, but don't make it up as you go along. And then the figure you're drawing just comes to life on paper. It's actually quite inspiring. That's not even the big story I have. The big story is I actually met another autistic who'd seen my Attitude documentary. I'm actually surprised he recognized me because I'd sprayed my hair a different color. His name was Christopher. We had a chat, and I made him aware of Persona 4 the animation, while he made me aware of another anime called Penguin Drum. When we parted, I decided to give him some words of wisdom, which I'm going to share now with all of the SBs watching this video. As somebody with either autism or Asperger's syndrome, nervousness and anxiety are always going to be a part of you, but never let it control you. And I've actually got one more story. I was getting ready to leave, I was eating lunch, and there was an Asian girl sitting across me from the same table. She told me she got excited because her favorite character had finally walked in while nobody else was playing that character. So I told her, "I know what you mean, I'm the only guy cosplaying as a Persona character." And then it turns out she didn't know what Persona was. Oh. But then she said that I looked cool anyway, even if she didn't recognize the character I was playing. So I posed for her, let her take a photo of me, and that was the last thing I did before I left. So, there you go. I went to a convention and I absolutely loved it, and I plan on doing this again at Armageddon.